The Calgary Flames have placed center Adam Ruzicka on waivers, and a lot of Habs fans are saying that Kent Hughes should snatch him up right away. But is that really a good idea? We'll be discussing that, plus some underrated Habs trade pieces in David Savard and Yoel Armia. Yes, Yoel Armia, great article, breaks all that down, and we're going to get into all that, plus Slafkovsky being demoted on this episode of Habs Digest. Let's just get right into the Slav stuff again, Jesse. And I know this was mentioned a little bit in the video earlier, but we're trying to spin it a positive way, right? As you guys know, Slafkovsky, at least in practice, has been moved to the second line. Coach Marty St. Louis said it's just part of the season. I really liked what Caufield, Suzuki, and Anderson brought in that third period against Ottawa. But it's disappointing at the same time, Jesse. I like the idea of seeing Slafkovsky with some new line mates for sure. I like the idea of seeing him out there against some lesser defensive pairings. But I just don't see the benefit of putting Josh Anderson back on the first line. What about you?
I want him with Nick and Cole, definitely. I want him with those line mates, and I think he can handle the tougher competition. Like, we have to remember, like, Cole Caufield going in up until last night's game was on a full 5-goal, goal streak. Like, you have to feel like Slafkovsky was a part of this, absolutely. And I know the plan is just kind of, okay, send him, maybe play him on a second or third line. And then obviously the plan is to bring him back on the first, but there's just no way in my mind that you can justify putting Josh Anderson above Juraj Slafkovsky right now. It's just, I'm a big Martin St. Louis supporter, but this is just a big head scratcher for me. Like, I feel like the last thing we want to be doing is kind of playing like line mate roller coaster with Juraj Slafkovsky. He's been having a relatively pretty good season.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I get it. There's a bit of turbulence right now, turmoil, I guess, in the lineup with Pearson coming back and Joshua Waugh being sent back down to Laval. Mitchell Stevens thankfully cleared waivers so he could get called back up at some point. But it's like, yeah, the Habs lost a few games. They were kind of embarrassed in those games, but I don't think the first line was necessarily a big reason for that. And hey, maybe the coaches saw it different. Maybe they saw something. But let's try and spin it positively, Jesse. I think seeing Monahan with Slav and a rejuvenated Armia, who we're going to get into in a bit, I think there could be a good fit here. And while, again, obviously we're disappointed, are you kind of on board with me, like, thinking Monahan with Slav is something we've wanted to see? And I think maybe seeing an extended period of time with this could maybe give some good fortune to him.
Yeah, well, Monahan's going to be the type of player that's going to bring out the best in his teammates for sure, being so intelligent. So for sure, that is a good combination. I kind of wish that Marty would have went to that combination before kind of bringing him to the top line, just more in that progression. Of course, I like that he brought him to the top line, but I felt like I wanted to see that Monahan connection a little bit more, a little bit curious to then finally get him on the first line and then to bring him with Monahan, in my opinion. But obviously he's a solid player. They're going to play really well together. They showed a little bit of chemistry together in a brief period of playing together last year. So, definitely not the next best situation for him to be in. But obviously I really feel like he does that spot on the top line. But more importantly, that Josh Anderson just doesn't deserve that spot on the top line.
Yeah, I think it's less about, Slav being moved down as opposed to it is Anderson being moved up. It is what it is. Hope to see Slav stay on the power play at least. I guess we'll just have to wait and see as the lines get figured out over the next couple days. Because, hey, there's also a chance that it's just for practice. We don't know. We hope the Slav is back up there. But let's move on to his new line mate and another guy in the Habs. We're talking about David Savard and Yoel Armia. And there are some trades that make a bit of sense. Now, Marco D'Amico had a fantastic article. I suggest you go read it. Always credit to the authors. And he kind of broke down how Savard and Armia could be really underrated trade options for the Habs. He said it's pretty much inevitable that Monahan, Allen, and Pearson will be on the way out. But with the market so thin, Savard, Matheson, and even Armia could be dangled for a premium. And let's start with David Savard, Jesse, just really quick. I didn't realize this, but there's a huge lack of right shot defensemen coming up in this free agency, at least for rentals. It's just Tanev and Walker, and there's a lot of teams that are wanting to add to their D-core. Savard is playing some of the best hockey of his career, 4 goals, 7 assists in 24 games, playing over 20 minutes a night, up into the top of the league in block shot rate, and it's a $3.5 million deal for this year and next. I feel like he is the perfect guy to add to so many contenders, and with the lack of other right-hand shot defensemen, I feel like teams could pay like a shockingly good premium for Savard's services.
And that might be just the difference maker for this, right? Because he is kind of a top 4 D for us. Like, it has to be a really good deal if we're going to remove, one of the few debts. We have about 2 to 3 vets right now. Kovacevic, Matheson, Savard, you could say, in our defense core. So if we're going to get rid of one of the 2 vets that we have, let's say, in our top 4, I feel like we need to get a good return. So if that's going to happen, I believe that Kent Hughes would be open to the fact that obviously the market isn't super stacked right now does make that a little bit more likely. But just thinking about it, if we are looking to trade a vet on defense, I think you can't rule out a Matheson trade because we have a vet on defense in Savard, but he's in a little bit more of a rare position on right D, which we don't have as much of.
True.
Right? If we're going to trade a vet on D, do we maybe go the Matheson route where we're probably going to get a haul, but we know, okay, but we have so many guys on left defense that we're young, but are kind of growing into that role where maybe they can kind of fill a top 4 sort of spot. Of course, we don't want to rush them, but you have to think one of these 2 vet Ds, either Matheson or Savard, very high likelihood that they get traded at this deadline.
I think so too. And Matheson, while he's on a contract for an extra year at a bit higher cap hit, he has been showing he's one of the best scoring defensemen in the NHL. And I mean, I venture to say he's a top 5 skating defenseman. I mean, maybe one of the best skating players in the league. It's crazy, right? And yeah, his defense hasn't been the best. He's had some drawbacks, but these 2 guys are both going to be extremely valuable as we head into the trade deadline. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But one other guy we wanted to talk about is Joel Armia. And, you know, like D'Amico says in this article, we talked about this 2 months ago. We'd be laughing. Like, no, there's no shot Armia is going to get anything at the deadline. But it's a $3.4 million deal this year and next. But the Habs have a significant amount of unused LTIR. They could take on short-term salary to facilitate a trade, open up a spot for next year for Joshua Waffle time. And Armia has scored the most goals. He already has 8 goals in 30 games. That's the most he's had in 4 years. And he's only played 30 games this year with Montreal. He is on a crazy goal pace matching. Like, I think it's even better than almost any season in his career, maybe worse than 1 or 2. It's kind of crazy that we've come to this, but he has been legitimately one of their best penalty killers as of late. He's been really impressive offensively with his goal scoring touch. Is it crazy to think that a team might actually pay like an asset or a decent pick for Joel Armia? Maybe if the Habs retain salary or take on a bad contract?
No, it's not. Because of his increased play this year, he's actually really upped his trade value. So doing a real solid for Kent Hughes. As we know, he was placed on waivers earlier in the season. So the fact that we could recoup an asset here would be huge. While again, the larger point of, making a spot for an emerging player on this team, you have to feel like there would be some salary retention involved in our Mia trade, which I'm definitely not opposed to, right? We just have so many young players. We have so many prospects, a lot of them that are showing some really good potential cracking through that next level right now. So you have to feel like definitely that trade's coming sooner than later, but hopefully he can be of service for another NHL team in the future.
Like I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, Kent needs to give me a trade. Like I feel like I'm having withdrawal from trades. The right one, yes. And don't just trade someone for the sake of trading him, Kent. Like he's gonna listen to us. But yeah, it's getting that time of year. I'm just itching for one. I'm so excited that we're right on the tip of a big move, but we gotta be patient. Just like Kent is, and we know he's going to make a great deal. The final thing we want to talk about is something else Kent Hughes maybe could do, and it's about Adam Ruzicka. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard Adam Ruzicka because last year he was compared a lot to Juraj Slafkovsky because they're both 6'4" Slovakian players. And yeah, they had similar production last year. And guess what? Calgary just placed him on waivers today. Now, just like I don't have a ton of background on Adam Ruzicka. Maybe there's some Flames fans in the comments or some Slovakian fans as well who maybe know a bit more about him than we do. But of course, I went to see what some Flames fans were saying. And of course, he was the 4th round pick in the 2017 draft. He had a really solid year last year, 20 points in 44 games. He's a 6'4" Slovak, right? Looking very similar to Slav as well. Nice necks on both of them. But he hasn't been able to put it together this year, Jesse. But with the Habs having a lack of center depth, another 6'4" Slovakian, he hasn't really done a great job with the Flames this year. Apparently, some fans saying he really lacks the effort and the drive, but he has a lot of offensive skill. Do you think this could be something Kent Hughes does to fill out that center depth and just maybe take a shot in the dark at another big Slovak?
It's curious right now. We're definitely looking for a 4C to kind of fill in the ranks right now. However, I don't feel that this is the route that Kent Hughes will go. I think he's just put such like a premium on character and everything else. Like maybe if there was the effort there that we could fit him into the bottom 6, which of course is so much about generating energy for your team, right? I just think we have to be so calculated in how we're approaching our top 6 going forward. Obviously, we have some players coming back from injuries pretty soon that are going to be here as well to kind of fill that out. So I'm not too big on the reclamation projects. Like I do like Alex Newhook. I do like Kirby, Dach. Don't get me wrong, but I think you have to be super selective, with those type of plays. And I don't want to upset our Slovakian fans because Lord knows we love our Slovakian fans so much. I don't know if this is the Slovakian player for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's great in theory. And I like it in a vacuum because it's like, he could be good, right? He's shown those offensive flashes. And of course, Calgary has not had the best season, though they've turned it around a bit as of late. There's a lot of, again, there's some turmoil going around over there. So maybe that's affected his mental state. I don't know. I don't want to make any kind of speculation on what's causing a player to play a certain way. I don't ever want to do that. But I think you're right. I think if what the Flames fans I've seen, if what they're saying is true, and he's kind of that, like, got that talent, has just not been able to solidify himself as a middle six guy, I don't think that's something the Habs really need right now, because you'd want to play him middle 6 minutes to see what he is, right? But I don't want to play him at center over Monahan or Evans. You can toss him on a wing, but we just sent Joshua Waugh back down, and Waugh's already making an impact. It's just, I don't know. I'm kind of on board with you, Jesse. I don't think he's really the fit right now. But just maybe to end off the video, do you think there's any world where the Habs do make a claim for some center that shows up on waivers at some point? Or do you think their goal right now is just to call Mitchell Stevens back up? Because it is a gaping hole, and we saw last game, it really hurt him.
It's important. We'll definitely need to address it sooner than later. Like, there is so much trade speculation. You have to feel like Kent, like there's kind of something going on there, and it might be a solid backup plan that, of course, we can bring Stevens back up. But you have to feel like there's maybe a couple things kind of in movement here. Because, I mean, to leave that, to put a winger in that center spot is a little bit curious, right? So we're definitely going to have to be paying close attention to what's going on here.
100%. There's a lot of stuff coming. Trade deadline's coming up. You got to think, like you said, something is going on. It feels so weird to have this roster. Like, when you have the guys to fill out the roster and you're not doing it, it's a little precarious. Like, you send Stevens down and then you send Waugh down. It's like, what's going on, Anyway, hopefully we get some answers very soon. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 15,000 and we're approaching 11. And if you guys want to be part of that first 15,000, hit that button down below. We'll have content every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.